I'd been working at Henderson Distribution for 8 months when Marcus Reeves became my foreman. 8 months of loading trucks, organising pallets, and keeping my head down in a job that paid the bills but didn't ask much of me. That's what I wanted back then. After everything that happened with my ex, after the whispers at my last job when someone saw us together, I just wanted to disappear into routine. Clock in, move boxes, clock out. Simple. Safe. Marcus changed that the moment he walked into the warehouse on his first day. He was different from Jenkins, our old foreman who'd retired. Marcus was younger, maybe 35 to my 27, with these broad shoulders that filled out his company polo shirt and dark eyes that seemed to actually see you when he looked your way. He had this presence about him, this quiet confidence that made everyone straighten up a little when he passed by. And he was fair, which was more than I could say for Jenkins. He learned everyone's name within a week. He asked about our lives. When Tommy's kid was sick, Marcus rearranged the whole schedule without being asked. I tried not to notice how my pulse quickened when he checked my work. Tried not to think about the way his voice dropped lower when he spoke to me. This warm rumble that seemed meant just for my ears. I'd been down this road before, reading things into nothing, wanting something I couldn't have. So I kept my distance, professional, polite, nothing more. But Marcus made that difficult. He'd find reasons to work near me, helping me reorganize the overflow section when he could have assigned it to anyone. He'd bring me coffee sometimes, claiming he'd grabbed an extra by mistake, even though it was always prepared exactly how I took it. Light cream, no sugar. And there were these moments, these brief seconds where our hands would brush passing a clipboard, or where I'd catch him watching me with this expression I couldn't quite read, something intense, something that made my stomach flip. I told myself I was imagining it. That's what I did best, after all, imagine things that weren't there. Hope for things that couldn't happen. Then came that Tuesday afternoon in March. It had been a brutal day. A shipment came in wrong, half the inventory was mislabeled, and we were already behind on outgoing orders. Everyone was stressed, tempers running high. I'd been moving heavy crates for 6 hours straight, and my back was screaming. I was in the back corner of the warehouse trying to make sense of a pallet of mixed auto parts when I heard Marcus's voice behind me. "Carter, my office, now." My stomach dropped. His tone was clipped, professional, not the warm one I'd gotten used to. I turned around and his face was unreadable, jaw tight. Around us, I could feel the other guys glancing over, that warehouse telepathy that happens when someone's about to get chewed out. Great. Whatever I'd done wrong, I was about to hear about it. I followed him across the warehouse floor, my work boots heavy on the concrete. His office was really just a converted storage room with a desk, a filing cabinet, and a tiny window that looked out over the loading docks. He held the door open for me and I stepped inside, my mind racing through everything I might have screwed up. The door clicked shut behind me. Then I heard the lock turn. I spun around. Marcus was standing with his back against the door, one hand still on the lock, and the expression on his face had completely changed. The professional mask was gone. He looked almost vulnerable, his dark eyes searching mine with an intensity that made my breath catch. "I need to talk to you," he said quietly, "and I need to know that we won't be interrupted." My heart was hammering so hard I was sure he could hear it. "Okay," I managed. "What's going on? Did I do something wrong with the inventory?" He shook his head slowly, pushing off from the door and taking a step closer. We were in a small space to begin with, and suddenly it felt even smaller. I could smell his cologne, something woody and clean, could see the slight stubble on his jaw that appeared by afternoon, could feel the heat radiating off him. "This isn't about work," Marcus said. His voice was low, careful. "This is about the fact that I can't stop thinking about you, and it's driving me crazy." The world seemed to tilt. I must have heard him wrong. I've tried, he continued, and there was something almost pained in his expression. "God knows I've tried to keep this professional. You're on my crew. I'm your supervisor. I know every single reason why I shouldn't be saying this to you." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture of frustration I'd never seen from him before. "But Carter, I can't keep pretending. The way you move, the way you focus on your work with this intensity like nothing else exists, the way you smile at Tommy's stupid jokes even when they're not funny, that thing you do where you bite your bottom lip when you're concentrating. I notice everything about you, and I can't stop. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. This wasn't happening. Things like this didn't happen to me. Marcus, if I'm reading this wrong, tell me now, he said, and I could hear the vulnerability beneath the words. Tell me I'm alone in this, and I swear I'll never mention it again. We'll go back out there and it'll be like this conversation never happened. But I had to know. I had to ask. Because sometimes, the way you look at me... He trailed off, his eyes locked on mine. Tell me I'm not crazy. The smart thing would have been to lie, to protect us both from the complications, the potential disaster. But I'd spent so long being smart, being careful, hiding who I was and what I wanted. And here was this man, this strong, confident man, making himself vulnerable for me, risking everything to tell me the truth. You're not crazy, I whispered. The relief that flooded his face was beautiful. Yeah? I think about you all the time, I admitted, and once I started, I couldn't stop. Every morning when I come in, I look for you first. When you bring me coffee, I save the cup because it means you were thinking about me. Last week, when you put your hand on my shoulder to get my attention, I couldn't focus for the rest of the day. So no, Marcus, you're not alone in this. He closed the distance between us in one step. I need to kiss you. Can I kiss you? I nodded, not trusting my voice, and then his hands were cupping my face and his lips were on mine. The kiss was gentle at first, questioning, like he was still giving me a chance to pull away, but I didn't pull away. I pressed closer, my hands finding his waist, and the kiss deepened into something that made my knees weak. He kissed like he did everything else, with complete attention, complete presence, like nothing existed in the world except this moment, except us. His thumb stroked my cheekbone as his other hand slid into my hair. I made a sound I'd be embarrassed about later, and he smiled against my lips. I've wanted to do that for months, he murmured when we finally broke apart, both of us breathing hard. Months? I was still trying to get my brain to work. Since when? Since about your second week. He was still holding me like he was afraid I might disappear. You were training on the forklift and you had this look of total concentration. Jenkins was explaining something and you were nodding, taking it so seriously, and I remember thinking I'd never seen anyone make a safety briefing look attractive before. He laughed softly. I wasn't even your supervisor yet. I was just shadowing Jenkins, learning the operation, and I saw you and thought, well, this is going to be complicated. I couldn't help but smile. I noticed you that day too. Thought you were way too good looking to be working in a warehouse. Figured you'd be gone in a week. Almost was, he admitted. When they offered me the foreman position after Jenkins retired, I almost turned it down because it meant being your direct supervisor, meant there'd be rules about fraternization, meant I couldn't... He gestured between us. But I couldn't walk away, told myself I could handle it, could be professional. How'd that work out? I asked, feeling bold. Terribly. His grin was sheepish. I've been miserable. Do you know how hard it is to concentrate on shipping schedules when you're lifting heavy boxes 15 feet away? I had to redo the inventory count 3 times last week because I kept losing track. The thought of Marcus, always so composed and capable, being distracted by me was intoxicating. So what do we do now? His expression grew serious. That's what I need to talk to you about. Really talk, not just... He gestured vaguely at the space between us where we'd just been kissing. I want this, Carter. I want you. But I need you to understand what it means. I'm your supervisor. The company has policies about workplace relationships, especially between management and crew. If anyone finds out, I could lose my job. You could face problems too. The reality of it settled over me like cold water. So we can't. I didn't say that. He took my hand, threading our fingers together. I'm saying we'd have to be careful, discreet. It wouldn't be easy. We couldn't tell anyone here, couldn't let anything show at work. And if it gets too complicated, if it puts either of our jobs at serious risk, I'd step down, find another position. I'm not letting you go now that I know you feel the same way. You'd quit your job? The magnitude of that hit me. Marcus, you can't. I can, and I would. His grip on my hand tightened. Carter, I haven't felt this way about anyone in years, maybe ever. I'm not walking away from it because of a job, but I'm also not going to be reckless with your career or mine. So we'd have to be smart about this. No one here can know. At work, we're just foreman and crew member. But outside these walls... He pulled me closer again. Outside these walls. I want to take you to dinner. Want to learn everything about you. Want to wake up next to you and make you breakfast and hear about your day, if you want that too. I did want that. God, I wanted it so much it scared me. But I'd been burned before. At my last job, I started, the words difficult. I was seeing someone, a co-worker. We thought we were being discreet, but someone saw us together outside of work. Took a photo. By the time I came in the next day, everyone knew. The comments, the looks, the way people suddenly treated me different. He couldn't handle it. Broke things off, told everyone I'd come onto him, that he wasn't like that. I left before they could fire me. Marcus's jaw clenched. What an asshole. Yeah. I looked down at our joined hands. So I came here wanting to just disappear, not make waves, not give anyone a reason to notice me. I noticed you anyway, Marcus said softly. And Carter, I'm not him. I'm not ashamed of who I am or what I want. I'm just trying to protect both of us from a company policy that's outdated and discriminatory. But if anyone ever made you feel uncomfortable here, if anyone said one word out of line, I'd shut it down immediately. And I'd never, ever deny you. I looked up at him, at the sincerity in his eyes, and felt something in my chest crack open. Okay. Let's try this. Carefully. Secretly. I managed a smile. Though I don't know how I'm supposed to act normal around you now, he laughed, the sound warm and relieved. We'll figure it out, we'll have to, because I'm not giving up my afternoon coffee runs, and I'm definitely not stopping myself from finding excuses to work near you. People are going to notice if you keep bringing me coffee. I'll bring coffee for everyone, he said. Play favourites with everyone equally. They'll never suspect. You're terrible at this. I really am. He kissed me again, shorter this time but no less sweet. My place tonight, I'll cook. We can actually talk without worrying about someone walking in. You cook? I'm full of surprises. He stepped back reluctantly, and I immediately missed his warmth. We should get back out there. We've been in here too long already. Right, professional. I tried to smooth down my hair, which was definitely messed up from where his fingers had been. How do I look? Beautiful, he said, then caught himself. I mean, fine. You look fine. Normal. Very warehouse appropriate. I couldn't help but laugh. We're doomed. Probably. He unlocked the door but didn't open it yet. Carter, thank you for being honest, for taking a chance on this. Thank you for locking the door, I said, for saying something. I never would have had the courage. I almost didn't either. He touched my face one more time, a brief caress. See you tonight? Yeah, tonight. He opened the door and stepped out first, immediately switching back to Foreman mode, calling out instructions about the auto parts shipment. I followed a moment later, trying to look like I'd just received a normal work update, not like my entire world had just shifted on its axis. Tommy caught my eye as I headed back to my station. Everything okay? He asked. Looked like the boss was pretty intense. Just the usual, I said, hoping my face wasn't as flushed as it felt. Inventory mix-up. Nothing major. Cool. Tommy went back to his work and I released a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. The rest of the shift was torture. I was hyper-aware of Marcus's every movement, every time he passed near me. But he was true to his word about being professional. He treated me exactly like he treated everyone else. Maybe even a little more distant, like he was overcompensating. The only tell was once, just once, when he handed me a manifest and our fingers touched. The contact lasted a fraction of a second longer than necessary, and when I looked up, his eyes held a promise that made my pulse race. When my shift finally ended, I practically ran to my car. Marcus had texted me his address during my lunch break, along with a simple message. Can't wait. I drove home, showered, changed into clean jeans and my nicest shirt, then sat in my car outside his apartment building for 10 minutes trying to calm my nerves. This was really happening. I was going on a date with Marcus Reeves, my foreman, the man who'd locked his office door and kissed me like I was something precious. I finally worked up the courage to go inside. He answered on the first knock, and seeing him in casual clothes, jeans and a fitted t-shirt somehow made him even more attractive. His apartment was small but comfortable, with warm lighting and actual art on the walls. Something smelled amazing. You made it, he said, smiling. Come in. I hope you like pasta because I'm making my grandmother's recipe and it's the only thing I actually know how to cook well. Pasta's perfect. I stepped inside and he closed the door behind me. Suddenly we were alone again, really alone, and the air between us felt electric. Can I kiss you hello? He asked. Now that we're not at work and I don't have to pretend I don't want to. Instead of answering, I closed the distance and kissed him. This time there was no urgency, no fear of being interrupted. We could take our time. His hand settled on my hips, pulling me closer, and I wrapped my arms around his neck. The kiss was slow, deep, perfect. "Hi," I said when we finally broke apart. "Hi yourself." He looked almost dazed. "Okay, I need to check the pasta before it burns and ruins my one chance to impress you with my cooking skills." We moved to the kitchen, and he stirred the pot while I sat at his small counter watching him. It felt domestic in a way that should have been scary, but wasn't. He told me about his grandmother, who'd raised him in Atlanta after his parents died. Told me about coming out at 19 and how she'd hugged him and said she already knew. About moving here for work 5 years ago and building a life from scratch. I told him about my family, about the complicated relationship with my dad who still didn't quite accept me, about the ex who'd broken my heart and my trust, about how I'd felt invisible for so long and how Marcus had made me feel seen. We ate dinner at his coffee table, sitting close on his couch, knees touching. The pasta really was incredible. Afterward, he put on music, something jazzy and low, and we just talked. About everything and nothing. Our favourite movies, worst jobs, childhood dreams. He was easy to talk to, genuinely interested in my answers, making me laugh with stories about warehouse disasters and his terrible attempts at learning guitar. "I should probably go," I said eventually, though I didn't want to. It was late and I had an early shift. This was really perfect." "It was," he agreed. "Can we do it again? Soon?" "Tomorrow," I suggested, then felt embarrassed. "Sorry, that's too eager, isn't it?" "Tomorrow's perfect." He walked me to the door, then pulled me in for one more kiss. "Drive safe. Text me when you get home." "I will." "And Carter, at work tomorrow, I'm going to have to be professional. Maybe even a little distant. But it doesn't mean anything changed. Doesn't mean this isn't real." "I know." I kissed him again because I could. "Good night, Marcus." "Good night." The next few weeks were the strangest, most wonderful time of my life. At work, we maintained perfect professionalism. Marcus was fair, efficient, never showing favouritism. If anything, he was slightly harder on me than the others, giving me the tougher assignments, pushing me to improve, but I understood why. We couldn't give anyone a reason to suspect. But outside of work, we were building something real. Dinners at his place or mine, movies on his couch where we'd start watching and end up kissing instead. Long conversations that stretched into early morning. He met my best friend Sarah, who immediately approved. I met his sister when she visited from Atlanta, and she whispered to me that she'd never seen her brother this happy. We were careful, so careful. Different cars to work, no texts during shifts, no lingering looks. But sometimes, in the quiet moments, I'd catch him watching me with this soft expression that made my heart race, and I knew I was looking at him the same way. 3 months in, I knew I was falling in love with him. Maybe had already fallen. 6 months in, he told me he loved me, whispered against my skin in the dark of his bedroom, and I said it back without hesitation. 8 months in, Marcus got offered a promotion, regional manager, overseeing multiple warehouses. He wouldn't be my direct supervisor anymore. We could stop hiding, at least the parts that mattered. The day he accepted the position, he took me to dinner at a nice restaurant across town, somewhere no one from work would see us. He held my hand across the table, right there in public, and I felt like I could finally breathe fully. "I need to tell you something," he said, his thumb tracing circles on my palm. "I didn't take this promotion just because of us. I earned it. I'm good at my job." "You're amazing at your job," I agreed. "But," he continued, "I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a factor. I'm tired of hiding you. Tired of pretending the best thing in my life doesn't exist when we're at work. This way, we can be honest. Not that I'm planning to make out with you in the warehouse or anything. Probably for the best," I said, smiling. "I don't think I could concentrate on inventory counts if you did." "Carter." His expression grew serious. "I love you. I want a future with you. I want people to know you're mine and I'm yours. Is that what you want too?" "Yes," I said without hesitation. "God. Yes. Good." He squeezed my hand. "Because I'm all in. Have been since I locked that office door and took the biggest risk of my life." "Best decision you ever made?" I asked. "Second best," he corrected. "The best was kissing you. Everything else just followed from that." We told the warehouse crew the following week, after Marcus's promotion was official. Most people were surprised but supportive. Tommy high-fived me. A couple of the older guys made awkward comments but backed off when Marcus gave them a look. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. We were honest. A year after that day in the office, Marcus moved into my apartment. 2 years after, I moved into his. 3 years after, he proposed in that same office, now used by the new foreman during a late night when the warehouse was empty. Got down on one knee right where he'd first told me he couldn't stop thinking about me. I said yes before he could finish asking. Sometimes I think about how different my life would be if Marcus hadn't been brave enough to lock that door, to risk everything for a chance at something real. I think about how close I came to staying invisible, to hiding forever. But he saw me, and he chose me, and I chose him back. That's the thing about taking risks on love. Sometimes, when you're brave enough to be vulnerable, when you're honest about what you want, the universe surprises you. Sometimes the person you've been dreaming about is dreaming about you too. Sometimes all it takes is a locked door and the courage to tell the truth. And sometimes the best love stories start in the most unexpected places. Like a warehouse office on a Tuesday afternoon, with a foreman who couldn't hide his feelings anymore and a worker who'd forgotten how to hope. We built something beautiful from that moment. Something worth every risk, every careful secret, every complicated navigation of workplace politics. Because at the end of the day, love is always worth it. Being seen, being chosen, being loved exactly as you are. That's worth everything. Marcus still brings me coffee sometimes, still finds excuses to be near me even though we go home to the same place every night. Still looks at me like I'm the best thing he's ever seen. And I still catch myself watching him, amazed that this is my life, that I get to love him and be loved by him, all because one day he called me into his office and locked the door behind us. Best interrupted workday of my life. Total char count, 24,847.